Welcome back to my glassy mess. In this episode of the Ram Rescue, now that I've got the cab all painted, I want to start putting things back together. Get that side airbag curtain back in, get the seat belts in, get the sunroof in. I need to clean up everything first. There is glass everywhere. And how it migrated all underneath this carpet I'll never know, but I'm going to pull the carpet out, clean everything really well. There's just fine glass fragments that stick in your hands and your knees climbing around trying to install all this. We'll get it all cleaned up and I'll start putting the truck back together. Of course there's modules in the way. I'll have to take that out, then I can maneuver the carpet out. Once I get the carpet out, then I'll be able to clean up all this mess. I wasn't sure how these wire rails were attached because there's tape wrapped around them, and luckily it just snaps into the floor. So I'll be able to shake all the glass out of them. Fortunately, this doesn't have very much glass in it. It came out very easily. Now I'll be able to vacuum out from under it. With the rails on the other side, I can see are clear full of glass. So it'll be nice that I can lift that up, shake the glass out, and then vacuum it. I'm gonna have to cut the tape, unwrap this, get all the glass out of it. And of course, it's got glass in the vent. So I'm gonna take this off too, so I can get the glass out of that. Amazing how that glass can get in everything. Got it all out. I hate rattles. I want to make sure there is no rattles in this truck. Now that I've got it all cleaned up, first thing I want to do is get these seat belts in and the side airbag in, and then I will put in that panoramic roof. I'm going to put a little Loctite on this one. What's that? We'll find out later. The door. So if I did it right, the seat belt's in and the airbag in, my airbag light should go off on the dash. I was hoping I could just put in the framework, but I'm not positive that it's not squeezing the frame, so I need to get the glass in. And when I went to put in the glass, I realized that the frame was pushed in, and I've got to open it up enough to get the glass panel in. So I had to loosen up all the bolts and screws, and then there's 3 mounting points on each side. So once I get those lined up and tightened up, then I'll be able to tell if the roof is in the right spot. I'm probably going to have to put the sunshade in as well, but I'll start with just getting the window in loosely, just so I make sure that I have all of the pieces in the right place. There's a lot of adjustment. Well, that's another thing I'm going to have to play with. Well, I was hoping to just do the one glass, but I'm going to have to do both so I can make sure to get everything adjusted correctly. The seal down the middle has got to be pulled apart. So it'll drop down in. Seal that goes across the front and the sides actually goes all the way around. I will put that in to make sure get it positioned correctly. So there's 2 seals, one that goes around the full perimeter and the other one that goes right along the edge. I want to make sure, pull everything tight together. I've adjusted it as much as I can from having it just everything loose, from not knowing exactly where everything goes. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. Hold these together while I tighten up these screws so that it'll keep everything straight. I think that's where I'll start with, is getting this one all the way back, getting that one all the way forward, and then I'll have some adjustment. I don't know the glass should be high or if it should be low, but there's quite a slot there for it to go up and down in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my broken ones, and it should have left a little bit of a mark on the aluminum rail. So hopefully it'll give me an idea of where that needs to be. It just didn't leave a mark. I mean, it's even a nice shiny black paint, but it didn't leave a single mark. I'll get it in the right light. And it appears though it was all the way down in the slot. So I will attempt it starting with it all the way down. Now this piece goes around this edge, get it centered up. Nice positive snap, like that. Since I don't have power to make everything work, I've got to disconnect the motors. Once I get these out, then I can run all these cables manually, and they just slide upon themselves. So I'll take both of those off, and they do have different part numbers on them. So I marked them last time I had them out. Now that I have those 2 motors off, I should be able to slide. Now I can slide the blind, and I need to take the cover off the blind so that I can get that fed through there. Now I need to flip it over and get this blind in position. It didn't come with any instructions, so it's going to be a guessing game on how many turns to get the blind so that it doesn't droop and have enough tension on it with that rolling spring. So this is the original one, and the new one came with an aluminum strip. I don't need that. I don't need anything on this because it is destroyed. It has a little end that twists on that side, and it has like a bearing that slides on this side. And then it runs in a track on both edges. Now the way this is already set up, it has a pin in it to hold the spring. So I'm sure somewhere that there's a manual that describes how to do this, but I can't find that. Probably something only the dealer has. So I'm guessing that I put the bracket on. Now I can use that to put tension on the cover. And then once I get it adjusted, I've got my fingers crossed that I just pull that pin out. And the pin is all of a sudden missing. Okay. Pin fell out. And that's what it is. Once I push in on it, then there's now tension on the springs. So now I need to hold it in place. Now I can flip it over. There's a little plastic bracket on each side, and there's a plastic piece that will need to run down that edge to keep it aligned. You bring the fabric up and over with this channel, and that channel locks into the edges of the plastic. It feels like there's enough tension. Wow, after a whole lot of swearing, cursing, breaking my back and my knees, I finally got this in. This little plastic piece has a teeny little channel that it has to slide in on both sides. And every time I get one side in, the other side would pop out, and vice versa. And then the metal piece, this metal channel, it actually wrapped around on the back side of the fabric so that it was hidden. When I put it on the first time, there were stickers on it, and then I pulled up my original one and there's a sticker on it. So I knew there's no way that would have been left exposed, because this is what you see. So now it has a nice clean rolled edge. It locked into place. It rolls and locks onto these pieces, and then the tension on this cover keeps tension on that little plastic piece that holds it all together. This is all wrinkled up right here. I was a little concerned about that, but there's just enough tension on it that after it's been used a few times, I think that'll smoothen out. But at the same time, the headliner comes all the way to here. So the headliner covers all this up anyways. So it disappears when it's all the way open, and then it just slides out and covers the whole top when it's fully opened or closed or shaded. So now I have these marks to make sure that everything went back into place. Both the green and the brown are back where they belong. So now I can put these motors back in, and the top glass, I'm going to pull that open. I'm going to manually open that one. But first thing I need to do is I need to lock this motor down so that I don't take the chance in this shade popping out of place on me if it starts to move. Fortunately, the sunroof was really easy to put in. Just hold it up against the roof and put in about 20 bolts. Got a lot of wires that need to be hooked up to the back end of this. So So I've got to figure out how to try to balance this while I plug it in and Velcro it to the ceiling. Now if we'll just stay put for a minute, I'll be able to line everything up. Man, that Velcro grabs. Now that I have everything all back in place, you can see I have the headliner all in across the back. I've got everything plugged in. I wanted to test the speakers and they're not working. I wanted to test the sunroof, the sunshade, and as I'm pressing all these buttons, nothing seems to work except one, and that is the open sunroof button. You can see sunroof opens. So that's a good sign. And when I push close, it closes. Nothing else works. If I push tilt, nothing. The sunshade, nothing. The rear window, nothing. Now, in my previous videos, I had talked about the tailgate kept popping. The release just kept clicking every few seconds. Now it doesn't do anything. Same thing with the lights on and this door open button. I don't know what that is. Assist, SOS. None of these work. The lights don't work. So that led me to start checking all the wiring. I took this panel out and I looked at the back side of the conductor paths and all the connections because I figured, well, obviously there's power here, because the sunroof does open. So I figured, well, maybe I have something disconnected. When I pulled out this panel and inspected the backs of these circuit boards and conductor paths, both of them were shorting out. It looked as though they had been wet for quite a while, and then the copper had expanded and there was a short. Now the brake light on the back of the cab, the light bulb literally exploded. So I know there was getting some jumps on too much power, and for whatever reason when the brake was put on, that brake light blew out. So maybe there's some other things in here that blew out. I cleaned those conductor paths. I cleaned them really well with WD-40, and they look pretty good, so I think maybe just where they had expanded, they were shorting out. And once I cleaned those out, some of these other buttons acted like they could work, they should work. So then it was just a matter of, okay, let's check all the wires. And there's a main wire that runs all the way down there into the side of the dash. So you can see what I'm finding. All that rust from coming down from the sunroof. It was really shocking. So when I went to plug this back in, this is the harness that goes up to the sunroof. I just happened to notice when I unplugged it to pull the headliner back out to see if I could figure out where the issue was. This was clear full of rust, and two of the pins is rusted off, and it was shorting out. So that's what overloaded the amplifier. I was looking at having to replace both of these harnesses. This upper harness was not that big of a deal to replace. I didn't even look at the price. It just goes up on top of the headliner and is just glued down with hot melt adhesive. This harness is the main harness to the whole dash. That was going to be a nightmare to change. So I just figured, it's one of those old adages, it's broken so I can't break it. I can only maybe fix it. So I took both of these connectors apart and pulled the pins out and cleaned them. And I was able to save all the pins but one. And I just did a jumper. I put in a jumper connection across and bypassed this. Put in a connector where I can be unplugged and plugged back in. Everything works. So I got lucky with that one. Well, I guess I shouldn't say everything works. The only thing that I couldn't get to work was the tilt. The tilt vent on the roof. It will tilt if I use the sunroof open feature, and I could bring it all the way back and it won't quite close all the way, and then I hit the down tilt and it closes. So I took this all apart, and the conductor pads on the back side of the motherboard that controls everything on there is rusted, and one of the pads is burned out. So that's going to have to be replaced to get it to work correctly. So like I say, it's really frustrating. It's not at all what I thought I was getting into, but those are some of that hidden damage that there's just no way to know when you're buying something like this. So I will now tear into this console, and before I mount it down, I'll hook everything up and see what works and what doesn't. Because I don't want to get it all installed and then find out that a lot of this stuff is going to have to be replaced. Thanks for checking out my channel. I'm here to learn, to teach, and hopefully to inspire. So hit my subscribe button. I really appreciate you subscribing. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like. Thanks again for watching.